welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, and let me correct that. This is not The Power of Money, it's The Power of Money presents Perfect Transformation. And as I shared with all of you that have been viewers over the many, many years I've been on air and broadcasting, shifted, and the focus is now on a much more holistic and balanced approach to living. Money is powerful, important, but my God, money is just a tool. And for many of us, it just hasn't worked out the way we want. And so we want to show you a more excellent way so that you can find balance and peace of mind and joy in your living, no matter what stage in your life, whether you're young or middle-aged or old or whatever. So as a part of the Perfect Transformation team, I have with me Dr. Rick Howard, who is a naturopathic doctor and specializes in wholeness, health, and wellness. I also have Elder Dennis Hatchett, who is a spiritual man who is very, very modern in his approach to kingdom life and living. And of course, you got Michelle, who's been your faithful friend for so many, many years. And I'm so appreciative of the response and the calls and people letting me know how they feel about the show and what we're trying to do. Again, you cannot pay people for good, solid information. It has to come from the heart. And I'm pleased to say that that's how we do this. So today, we're going to be doing part 2 of a 2-part series. The first part, which was American Dream or Cultural Nightmare, and we laid the groundwork and the foundation for what started out as lofty ideals with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and has evolved into cultural corruptness, where people do everything, say everything, no boundaries, no precepts, and why we're in the state we're in today, which is everybody is so miserable and unhappy. I mean, this is what happens when you put the mirror up and look at yourself all day long. Not good. So today we're going to be talking about how to escape the cultural nightmare that we have created. You have to take responsibility for this mess, okay? And so we'll begin by saying that to properly transform our minds and lives, we must pay close attention to the ideas, traditions, and values that we hold dear. On today's journey toward perfect transformation, we want to examine these ideas, traditions, and cultural attitudes that shape our thinking and our transformation. We want to talk about the American dream and the images of culture. How do we awake from this nightmare? Many of you probably have never even heard this type of thing, but I've been pushing it hard for the last several months because I see before me such chaos in financial decision making, in families, in how people live their lives. And again, because I love you, I don't have to know you personally to love you, but I love you and I respect where you're at, and I know you're feeling uneasy, particularly older people. As my mother told me, she said, Michelle, I don't even know where my generation is going. We don't fit in. And that's an awful, but very correct assessment based on what's happening out here today. Older people do not feel they fit in. They don't know how to do iPads. They don't know how to do iPods. They don't know how to do Androids. They don't know how to do a lot of things. Their families are every kind of way. They came out of a different world, a different way. So we're going to go deeper into this issue of culture and the American dream, which has now become a nightmare. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Morning for some, afternoon for others, nighttime for others. Where do we want to start, Dr. Howard?
Well, I think we said last show that we were talking about the American dream has become a cultural nightmare.
Correct.
And I wanted to recap why we said that's happening. We have gone from the freedom to work and work hard, etc., to we've now transformed to working hard for our entertainment's sake. Okay, that's a whole shift that has changed the dynamics of the landscape, American landscape, where doctors, teachers make far less than a basketball player, sports figure, right?
Right.
We see it before us where we work hard for our entertainment. The second thing is,
my God, I just got it. I just got
we work
it.
hard
We work hard for
our
entertainment. Oh my
Yes,
God.
you see?
Oh, I got it.
Right,
Oh,
and see, then the second slice of that is where we get our values, our ideas, these concepts.
Yeah.
Instead of we learn from culture rather than learning from God or family or some loftier thing. Now the culture demands what we should dress, what we should eat, who we should be with, how we meet them, where we meet them. Okay. The culture wants to be God.
Yes.
The culture wants to tell us all these things without our examination. And every time we push back on that, oh, there are consequences for pushing back.
Not to deviate, but I'm just thinking about what you were saying. Remember when Pokemon something was out and people were running?
Out in the street.
I was so removed from that. I don't want to sound naive, but I was like, are you kidding me? You are actually
out in the street,
out in the streets doing this?
Trying to find
hundreds of thousands of people were doing this.
Yes.
That was very, very
But you know, the
disturbing
power that the video, this 3D video experience has had, changed lives quicker, which proves change is not hard. Change is not hard. Change is inevitable. Transformation is hard. So that third leg of this cultural nightmare is our personal freedoms are sought above common sense or safety. See, these people were so enamored with the Pokemon thing that they were running out in front of a car. Hello.
Boom.
Whoa.
Whoa.
You would have Pokemon in your experience. With life.
I mean, I just realized, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who does that? Hundreds of thousands of people do that.
A lot of people. They couldn't even keep up with the demand.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. So how does this bode, I mean, this fourth point that I had that we were reviewing from this, we have little foresight for our future. Those kids playing Pokemon, or some grown-ups too.
Yes, a lot of grown-ups, yeah.
Their whole concept was on the now. It had nothing to do with, wow, if I run out in front of this car, then what? Wow, if I am late on my job, then what? Wow, that used to be our concern. Am I going to be late for work? No, that might be in our mind, but that's not our concern.
Yeah.
So we have to evaluate how this has become a nightmare. This cultural image that the culture is giving to us has become a nightmare, and we have to first recognize that. I don't have any moorings. The boat is drifting in the harbor.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because if we don't recognize how we got to a place, we'll end up there again. Because the driving forces, the voices we hear, all the influencing factors are still in place. How you how you interact with those influencing factors. If how you interact with those influencing factors doesn't have an adjustment or a change in it, there's not going to be any change in the result. You're going to continue to do what you've always done, and you're going to always be where you've always been.
Well, I don't watch much television. It's just because my life is busy and I don't have time. But I did take the time to watch. I tried to watch the show, but there were so many commercials pushing cars, pushing drinks, pushing vacations, pushing clothes, pushing. And I finally said, why don't they just say, this is the show, all the commercials, and a little bit of
Entertainment in the middle.
Entertainment in the middle. Were the commercials the entertainment? And the actual show itself.
Think about the Super Bowl, though. How much they pay to get business associated with entertainment, right? They spend millions of dollars for a small snippet of entertainment time so that they can say, we were in the Super Bowl for what? Because they know we work hard for our entertainment.
We work hard for our entertainment.
They said we want to be a part of that. We want to influence. And you're giving them a gateway to your mind when you do that, right? And that sounds dramatic, but it's really true. You know, how did you decide to buy what you buy for most people? How did McDonald's become the place? Because they have the best burgers? No. The surveys say they don't have the best burger.
It's an experience.
It's an image that has been formed in people's minds over a period of time that is, they've made themselves the standard, even though they're really not the standard. And there are many things in our culture that's doing that, that's making that transformation. So we're going to have to see, number one, the influences that we have come to and the things we're sacrificing, our health, our safety, our children's lives, our relationship with our elders. I mean, it used to be we treasured the time we could spend with our parents, our grandmother, grandparents. How many kids don't even know their grandparents?
That's sad too.
That is so unbelievably.
Because it's a sad reality because we have lost the family structure in our pursuit for things.
Right.
We've lost family values because of our pursuit for things. When do we come to a place to say, okay, I have learned in whatever state I'm in, therefore to be content. So even though I may not have all the things I could have, I'm okay with the things that I do have.
Well, wait a minute, Dennis, though, I need things. I need money.
I need a big TV.
Stuff.
I need stuff. What are you talking about?
Be happy with what I got? I mean, my television's burned out, my car's broken down. I need stuff.
Well, yeah, you might need stuff in your mind, but the stuff that you need really is significant is relationships. Relationships are the true fulfillment of life. The world has created this visual that things are the fulfillment of life.
Wait a minute, I'm on Facebook. What do you mean I need relationships?
In fact, I've had people tell me that. I have relationships. I'm on Facebook.
I got 1,000 friends.
I got 3,000. Don't I have a lot of friends?
What the world is defining as relationship. What the world is defining as relationship, they're just putting ship on relations because that's all you have is relations. You're not having a relationship because
it's sailing off.
And sailing off into
absolutely.
Relationship.
And it's getting ready to crash into the tree, and then when it crashes into the tree, you're gonna be sitting there going, oh, how did I get here?
Well, I think that's a part of this waking up because, like we said at the end of the last show, sometimes that little crash has to happen.
Oh, I'm prepared to say that we're looking at what I call aggregation. And aggregation is when all of the things that we talked about come into synchronicity, so to speak, aggregation, and then boom. So you're not just talking about a person falling off the cliff, but an entire populace falling off the cliff and clinging and gripping and trying to figure this out. Let me give you a case scenario because I've had quite a few things happening to me as my eyes are open and I see. A very prominent gentleman, very prominent, funeral was Sunday. Well, you know, we do the radio show on Sunday, so I knew even though I was supposed to be there, I couldn't. So I told them, I said, well, I can't come to the service because I am prior committed. And there was a hue and a cry about my unwillingness to discard a commitment to do a funeral, which is really now, well, this is a very big, these are very, very affluent Caucasians. The man was very affluent. And so I called the next day because I did not go. And we had a great time on the radio show. Speaking of which, for those of you that are watching, you can listen to us on Sundays from 4 to 5.
Yes.
The three of us and a host of others on
1050 AM or 103.1 FM.
But more importantly, they can watch you live stream if
On
they're
Facebook.
type in your name, Elder
Dennis Hatchett.
Hatchett, and you can watch the show live anywhere in the United States of America. Sundays 4 to 5. Awesome stuff. But anyway, when I chatted with the people, and I don't want to be too long-winded, but it was important because it kind of took me a loop, and their response was, well, we missed you, but it was okay. We had a very, very well-attended affair. And you do understand that his widow is penniless because he, blah, 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 went on about all that he didn't have and all of this. This is and that she had to have him cremated because she couldn't afford to have him buried. And went on and on about this. And I couldn't believe this community of friends and relations had nothing positive to bring to the story other than maybe she'll file bankruptcy and maybe, this will happen. But none of what I thought the sensitivity and the offering of help. It was such a self-centered diatribe about this man and the impact that he did not have because obviously he's gone and she has no money. I don't know what she's going to do. She'll have to work it out. And I'm like, why? I'm so glad I didn't go.
That's the manifested reality of what I'm speaking to when
That
I say
is outrageous.
relationships are pretty much non-existent anymore. Everybody operates in a dimension of relations, and they call it relationship. But you ask somebody, well, what did you get out of it? And they're like, exactly.
Well, I think there's a whole nother dynamic that we talked about last show about our world becoming self-centered. Okay, and I think even something like going to church, people go to church or they go to this and they said, oh, the service was no good, I didn't get anything out of it. Well, and I often will say, well, what did you bring?
Yes.
See, it may not be about you getting something. It might be about you giving something.
Oh, did we say give? Do you actually mean give?
I'm talking about giving something. I mean, because you can't have a relationship with someone without giving something to that person.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're just a sponge. They call that a sponge when you sit and you absorb everything someone else has. Then you're a sponge. You're not a person.
And that's the perfect definition of relations versus relationship. Because as you said, relationship requires you to give something of yourself. And it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, but there has to be something that you put in. There has to be some investment from your perspective and your point of view. Because if there's no investment, there's no value. So then when you walk away and say, I didn't get anything from it, exactly right. What did you bring? Because if you brought nothing but a closed mind, and you were coming to be entertained, and you really didn't come to learn anything, if the entertainment didn't fit the demographics of what you appreciate entertainment to be, you can successly walk away and say,
but even a sponge gives in a crisis. When it gets squeezed.
I have to remember that. Even a sponge gives in a crisis.
It does.
Yes, it has to.
You got to squeeze.
Exactly.
You get squeezed and you have to give everything you have when you get squeezed. When you get sick, you're in bankruptcy, you give everything you have. Then in a crisis, instead of learning give and take, you give and take, You give some, you take some. You give some.
Well, it has to be balanced.
Take some, and it has to be a balanced thing.
And that's what relationship is. It's a balance of that process.
Right.
And relations is always the one-sided entity where one is taking, one's giving. And one takes until one is exhausted, and then once this person is exhausted, he's moving on to the next
person.
to have relationship again, so he can take, and so and when we come to that point of recognizing that our society as a whole has been reduced to a society of givers and takers, that's what brings us to the transformation. Because how do we come out of this stage now? How do we restructure this thing so that we come to a place to say, you know what, I now can pursue life, liberty, and have the pursuit of happiness?
Well, I think, like you said, the acknowledgement, where I come to acknowledge where I am, is kind of important. I mean, I think that's major, because you can't transform without acknowledgement. And I think in a world of so many people being self-absorbed, you almost have to make a noise to make people hear, you know, what's hello, there's something, you know, happening. you can't just say, well, let me tell you. No. People, they don't respond to that anymore.
They really don't.
You almost have to, because the internet and cable shows and everything that makes so much noise.
Oh God.
That you know, kids walk around with stuff in their ears. I saw a guy, and I wasn't condemning him or anything, but he was driving his car with headphones in, holding the phone.
No.
I was like,
you're going to kill somebody.
Wait a minute.
Right.
You're driving the car with earphones in and holding a phone.
Huh.
That's distraction to a whole nother level.
That is too frightening for me.
I was like,
what is happening with you guys?
Let me speed up and
get away from you.
And maybe that's a point. Maybe the first thing, if you really are seeking a good transformation, maybe the first thing you have to do is get away from those voices that are feeding you the noise.
Hello.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that, because when we began going down this journey and I began to really understand why I have not been a part of the television world in such a long time. We do the show, do other media pieces, but it's always on my terms, because I can't get into that. I don't knock anybody, but I only want to hear voices that are going to help me to grow and to become a better human being. That's the voices I want to hear. I make a decision. Television, unless you pre-select, you do not have that choice. You're listening to somebody else's script.
Right.
And you may not want to look at it like that, but it is a voluntary imposition, meaning I volunteer to have your voice imposed on my thinking.
For a little while.
For a little while. But it depends. When the average person watches 10 hours of television a day, you sleep for 8 days. That's what the
stat.
Soon as
they get home from work at 4 o'clock,
10 hours?
10 hours a day.
The TV's on. They get home from work at 4 o'clock. The TV's on at 4. They go to bed at 1 and 2 in the morning.
That they do.
The TV's been on all this time, and they're going from show to show, from show to show.
Yes, they do.
And the only thing they stop for is to get something to eat and maybe go to the bathroom.
Because the show told them to get something.
Pretty much. Pretty
Dun,
much.
dun, 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 dun.
Wow.
Intermission time, commercial.
Okay.
Right. Well,
that's major.
Yeah.
When you realize that.
Well, so here's the thing. I think that we've talked about the American dream. We've talked about how it started out with good stuff.
Very
it started
idealistic.
out with idealistic stuff.
Good stuff.
It's transformed from all beings are equal in the sight of their creator. We have inalienable rights, that
inherent rights,
inherent rights
major.
that we should be able to depend on for the common good.
For the common good.
That should be the point, is all the rights that I have, that you have, as a society should work for the common good.
Right.
Just like the things I do within my family should work for the good of the family.
Right.
I think that has to be underlined. And that last part, as you were mentioning, the preservation of life, of liberty,
and
the pursuit of happiness. Now, if we were to really take that to heart, where everything I did, including what I ate and my relationships with people, went towards the pursuit of life. Not just living.
No, life.
But it tended toward life. Then people would stop selling alcohol.
You're going to cause an economic depression.
See, because now people will say, well, I have the right to do that. Well, I'm not saying you did, but you cannot honestly say you're pursuing life when
and
you're
doing
that.
Something that's killing you.
Right. You can't honestly say that. So it takes a personal discussion with, pursuit of life, but then where does what's the leading crisis, social crisis you see these days? What are they talking about?
I would have to say it's the disintegration of the family.
Disintegration of the family. What else is there?
Depleted finance.
No money.
And no money. And then heroin,
yeah,
addiction, and all of this kind of
opiates,
stuff. And because they're giving up their liberty for their liberty.
What?
You got her on that.
I got her on that. Okay. They are surrendering true liberty to have this false liberty of mind. So they've been sold a bill of goods that if you pursue things and not relationships, and you pursue money and not work, you destroy your destiny and future for the liberty of the moment. Got it. You see? And they don't
get it until crisis.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that is, I just had a situation that was brought to my attention where a friend of mine, a car crashed in front of their home, and 4 heroin addicts fell out the car. 1 dead,
Mercy.
1 unconscious, and the other 2 functional in the back. But this carnage was in front of her house, and the 2 that were functional started running toward her house. And she said, at which time, Michelle, I thought about what you said, which is, girl, if you don't get your 45, if you don't get your 45, and rejoin the NRA and shoot you somebody. And so that's at Kentucky, Michelle. But she said, I realized with horror, and she said, I called the police, and she said, they were slow in coming. There's all this decimation in front of my yard with these humans. And she said, I had to resist. I said, why didn't you go out and help them? And she said, I just couldn't. I just couldn't. And she didn't. And the police finally came, and the ambulance and all the things, but that just struck her. I mean, that took her into a very different place.
Well, I think about it in the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
You see on all the movies where somebody's broken down, and the neighbors all came. That sense of community, we have given up for a sense of society.
Explain.
Okay. Community says involvement.
Okay, exactly.
Right? The house burned down, everybody brought you food. They said the men stop what they were doing, they're gonna help you rebuild your house, because they knew in the Wild Wild West that you had to depend on each other.
Because their house may burn down.
Because their house may burn down, right?
Right.
And the African village, so to speak, they had to have community.
Right.
In other words, common values, common effort, leading to a common goal.
Okay.
But now we have society where people are at certain levels, do certain things, have certain things, and of course you have the have-nots.
Oh God, the have-nots.
Right, so
okay.
You have a society, but you don't have community.
My God.
Well, you have independence in society.
Because everybody, each man or woman
for themselves.
For themselves.
Exactly.
Which completely falls apart in crisis.
In crisis.
Absolutely.
Which is why she could not get it together with the man head split open.
Right, because there's no, the community, the society, and the danger of society overwhelmed a sense of community. Let me go and see if I can help.
Because she said, I'm just going to call. I asked, what did you do? She said, I called, and then I looked out the window. And I said,
that's scary.
You looked out the window? She said, yeah, I looked out the window because I wasn't going out there. And they were dazed and wandering around. And she said, I said, how did you feel? And she said, I didn't feel safe. And I said, but you do understand that heroin is epidemic and that this may be one of many future occurrences for you to deal with.
No, that's too dark of a vision for people to. But we're saying we're talking about how to wake up from the dream, and I want to read something that I wrote down a while back. It says, the architect of a successful life must be ever mindful of the consequences of every choice, great or small. Freedom never exists without laws or boundaries. In fact, it can only be defined by the boundaries that are present. Perfect transformation takes place only as we have educated ourselves to the rules of engagement and the boundaries of our resources, preparation, and vision. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Break it down into pieces.
But just the first part of it is everybody has freedom of choice, but that's a freedom to be an architect, but we have made it freedom to be a demolition expert. Instead of building our lives,
we tear them down.
Yeah. You know, because I'm free to choose things that are not good. So I have to recognize if I am going to be the architect of a good transformation, that every life act, small or great, has consequence.
That's a moment. Let me say that again. Give me the camera. Every life choice, good or bad, has consequences. Remember that.
Well, see, because if I eat potato chips all day long,
and there are people that do.
And there are people that do. I mean, none of our viewers, but but let's just say their cousin does.
Okay, their cousin does. Okay.
That potato chip will not kill you right away, but if you constantly do it, you reap the harvest later on. Every life act, small or great, good or bad, has consequences that I must pay for.
But aren't potato chips healthy because they're potatoes?
Yeah, right. Right. Look on the bag.
Look on the bag.
Turn it over.
Turn it over.
Ladies, y'all close your eyes.
Close your eyes.
Because, 25% of the fat you have in a day comes from 11 potato chips.
Yeah. And the salt.
17%, yeah, well, the sodium.
Oh, yeah, the sodium.
17% of the sugar
Is from that potato chip.
11 potato chips.
Can you cheat and have one?
You know, no one
can eat just one.
Oh my
How
God!
do we know
my
that?
God! Oh my God! This is really kind of creepy. Did you all say that in harmony?
We did.
Pretty much.
We've been trained.
Okay.
But okay, the second part of that is freedom doesn't exist without laws.
Point it to me again, camera, please. Freedom does not exist without laws.
In fact, it can only be defined by the boundaries you have. How do I know to stay in my lane? Because there are markers that mark the boundaries of my freedom.
That's
When
good.
I get outside the boundaries of my freedom, I crash into Dennis's car,
Causing problems for
causing
him.
problems for him. If we could think about every action that we do in terms of those freedoms, having boundaries, I would not crash into people's lives so often. Because freedom has a cost.
That's very good, because truly, because we live in a culture where people feel comfortable saying what's on their mind.
Right.
Regardless of what it's going to do to the hearer or the recipient, and without an understanding that it'd be better for you to think and then think again before saying anything. Because we have that level of just disconnect, it causes problems for everybody else.
Well, we have erased, we live in a culture that has erased the lane markers.
Oh, that's
Absolutely. They've traded it in for, I'm keeping it real.
Right, exactly.
I'm keeping it real.
Not realizing that keeping it real can keep you broke.
Right. Well, not only broke, but broken.
Absolutely.
Right?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have disconnected the consequences of the things we do from, it's just like, I remember clearly there was I think it was in LA or something. They had this bridge where these guys had set up this bungee cord thing, and people were paying money. They jump off this platform and then
boom,
go down, and then
bounce
the
back.
thing would come back.
Yeah.
Well, one guy jumped off
Yes.
and he came back, but it brought him back into the platform and killed him instantly.
Oh my God.
You know, and then another one that they had, and I think they had stopped doing it.
Yeah.
One they had, the person jumped off, the cord broke, and he plunged,
no.
you know, way down.
Way down.
So I mean, that's our lives, though. We're
If you jump off unawares,
or taking the chance, so to speak.
either way,
Right.
Radical risk.
Right.
Which is, I'm going to walk on fire, I'm going to walk on this,
Right.
I'm going to do that. And I tell folks, and if your foot gets burned off, I'm sure you will.
They use their hands.
You use your hands. You Spider-Man. Use your hands. Use your hands.
Right.
I'm so sick.
The pursuit of happiness at the expense of adrenaline and recklessness. Because they're pursuing this adrenaline rush. And they just totally.
And it is a rush.
Exactly. And they exercise this recklessness and then call it fun.
Right, exactly. Well, so the part of the transformation is character is the foundation of every part of your life experience. You first put it before the lens of character. Is this good? Which means you have to have a standard to measure that good.
Right, what is good, yeah.
But first ask the question, is this good? I've got 2 kids at home, I've got a wife, I've got a husband, whatever your situation is. Do I need to be jumping off a platform?
Right.
Just for a 30-second thrill, right?
Right.
Do I need to do X, Y, and Z?
But is that really as I listen to you talking about this, the question I have, I guess, is when a person is only thinking about themselves, as you've said, then is that even a consideration?
No.
Well, I think I couldn't say that a narcissist doesn't think about anybody else. It's just that the thoughts about everybody else doesn't matter as much as he thoughts about himself. He thinks about you, but it doesn't matter as much as he thinks about
himself.
Me.
Yeah,
You
got
see?
it.
And I think that's, you know, that's how they live a little bit in this society. It's like, oh yeah, I think about you. It just doesn't matter.
It's not important.
Not important, doesn't matter.
So character has to define my boundaries for me in terms of those in my environment, okay? So character is the first thing that births my purpose.
Okay.
I want to do good in the world for myself and for others. Therefore, I will not steal Dennis's watch, right?
Got it. Right.
I want to watch. I want things.
Right.
I want good. But I need to, if I like his watch so much, I need to ask, where did you get that watch? I want to get one. Is it still on sale?
Right, right.
So character births purpose.
Okay.
Only when you put purpose under the guard of character is it a good thing.
That's
Purpose
good.
can become destructive without the guidance of character. We
Good
need to
character.
absorb that.
Good character.
Yeah, see, and you're going
Good
to
character.
your choice
Yeah.
determines whether it'll be good
or not good.
Or not good. That's what you choose.
Okay.
If I choose to be, if I say, well, it doesn't matter where my money comes from, then I'll steal in the boardroom or I'll steal at the corner street selling drugs.
Right.
It's all the same, but our society has made it more likely to be caught and punished for selling drugs on the corner
Then in the boardroom.
than in the boardroom.
Right.
You see?
But same thing.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, Enron,
Same. Oh God.
you know,
Right.
how many people did he hurt? How many lives did he destroy? And he's still alive to talk about
Yeah.
it.
And what's the other
Absolutely.
guy?
You see?
The Jewish guy, the Bernie.
Bernie Madoff.
Madoff.
Oh,
He
my
made off
goodness.
with
He
everybody,
made off with
everybody's money.
But at the same time, if I chose to believe that I can get something for nothing,
See, that's my issue.
that's the greed.
That's the greed factor,
I mean-
which is a character issue. Is it or is it not?
It is.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
And it's a societal
Okay.
mindset because
Okay.
people, I listened to one story of a guy on there. He said, I gave him over $1 million. That was I was thinking to myself, I ain't giving
give nobody all my money.
Right.
I care who he is.
I'm not, I wouldn't believe that. Okay, I'm gonna give you $10 and you're gonna give me $15 back. That's better than any performance of any stock, anything
Right.
ever. And you think this is gonna happen month by month by
That's
month
what
by
I
month
found
by
so
month?
incredulous.
That's,
I found that to be.
No, that's not
listen,
gonna
I
happen.
found that to be absolutely.
So how would you have to be set up to believe that?
Yes.
And a lot of these otherwise sane people who had suspended what would normally be unbelievable and said, oh yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds
I'm gonna
good.
do it. And the first month he did turn me a check. And the second month. But then that third month he can I put this back into? Oh yeah, just go ahead and put it back. Oh, okay, yeah, right.
And then in 6 months, you can't find him.
You can.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was they had already told their cousin Charlie about this good thing, so they took Charlie's money and gave it to you. So you'd be happy for a minute, and then they find Charlie's uncle, who you see, a lie duplicated.
Right. And that actually happened, for the record, in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh yeah.
We had a major Ponzi
Right.
that truthfully I went public on the radio and said Stop ripping off your family. This is a scam.
Well, was that the one, the guy that he was in Westchester or something like that?
I know that. Listen, it's such a perverse story of greed and stupidity, and it spoke so poorly of people's character because they were actually encouraging their family members to get on board, and the money that the family members were putting into this Ponzi was the money that they were getting.
Right, exactly.
And when I went on radio, I will never forget that this was on Sunday on a very popular talk radio show, and I said, I'm going to say something that's going to get rocks thrown at me, but I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say this is a scam. And you know it in your gut. You know it in your gut, but you won't stop. And I had people calling and going off on the radio. How could you? You're just mad because you didn't think of it. Excuse me, Ponzi's have been around. It's named after the man that started it, Ponzi. And yet, the number of people and the government, talking about the government didn't get involved until it had gotten full blown, meaning there were now thousands of people who were putting their money into this and just said, I never forget it, she caused this thing to fail.
But see, you put your finger on something earlier, that it is because of character weaknesses that we make decisions like that. You see, we get in a drive to get money. That's a purpose.
Okay.
I'm gonna get money. I'm gonna get some money. I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna be rich.
Yeah.
Okay, but without the guidance of character, say, Rick, how do you become rich? How should you become rich? And should you do that to become rich? And should you give this guy your whole retirement fund to become rich in a minute?
Right.
Not recognizing if you give them $1 million, you're already rich to start with.
Well,
I'm
not rich enough, so that's why I'm giving him.
I want more,
so I can become more rich than I was.
Right. Totally overlooking what Sir Isaac Newton said. For every action, there's an
equal and opposite reaction.
Exactly.
And when you can't and you don't evaluate what the reaction could be, do you have to come to a place to understand what you just decided is either going to reap you a benefit or it's going to reap you a consequence?
Well, the problem is the next level of that when it comes to transformation is that we form habits when we do things. We make decisions about things, what we want. I want money. And I start doing something, sometimes it works out. I mean, I get that check, it worked out. Right. And then I start doing it again and doing it again when my risk seems to narrow, my exposure.
Right.
So all it takes is one time for me to die.
One time.
Right? I've jumped off this banner 10 times. Man, it's great, it's fun. But
nothing happened to me.
One time.
And you're done.
And you're done. So habits give us a comfort level with taking risk. You see? Even financially, romantically. Oh man, that girl, she was awesome. But then you slept, well, after 10
women,
15, whatever, all it takes is
one.
I remember a story about a preacher's daughter. She was 16. Her first experience with illicit or sex outside of marriage with a boyfriend that she had known for about a year.
Okay.
Gave her herpes.
Whew. For life.
And it was so bad that she had 10 days out of every month where she wasn't broken out.
Oh my God.
10 days out of every month. Her cycle triggered it.
Right.
Then she had so many days of it. And then she had about 9 or 10 days that she was
Completely okay.
Free.
Wow.
One time.
One time.
See, when our habits lead us to a place of false security, then our risk exposure gets bigger because we think, well, I did it before, it's okay.
It didn't happen.
I did it before, it's okay.
Well, Dr. Rick, how do you answer people that have bad outcomes and they continue to do it?
Well, habit is a strong
Influencer.
almost addiction.
Absolutely.
Whoo,
Because
no.
because your neurons,
Yes,
every night when you go to sleep,
yes.
this is what should happen.
Okay.
Your neurons, we used to think the brain strengthened those neurons and blah, blah, blah. What it actually does is more like pruning. Whatever you have habitually done and your body says, that's what he thinks is important. So let's prune away this other stuff that you haven't given time and attention to and strengthen the things you've given time and attention
Wow.
to. So you almost unlearn the good that you haven't practiced and strengthen the good, the evil that you had,
practice.
Right.
so that it becomes almost inevitable that you're going to keep doing it, even though it's stupid.
Exactly.
Oh,
You know what?
my goodness.
Time's up. Can you believe that?
Seems like we just got started.
We just got started. My God.
Isn't there a song that says, we just got
got
started?
And before you know it, comes the time we have to say.
So long.
So long. I think that's one of my favorite comedians that did that. This has been very, very good. I think moving forward, I want to explore that issue that you just brought up about habits. Why? Because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That-
And we want to give people your phone number quickly, and then I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful day. Okay, come on, Dr. Rick.
My office number, 513-755-2019. That's my office.
513-479-9302.
And of course, you all should know my number. It's the same forever, 237-3914, area code 513. And thank you so much for being a part of Perfect Transformation today, escaping the cultural nightmare. I hope that you've learned some things that can help you and your family as you go through this journey called life. And remember always that what you send out, good or bad, will come back. Actually, more powerful than you sent it out. So be kind to people and be loving, and always remember to stay blessed. See you next time. You take care. Bye-bye.